This is the Town Moor, a massive area of common land just to the north of Newcastle city centre. It's usually inhabited by joggers, dog walkers and cattle. But every year it's home to a special event when in June showmen from all over Britain and beyond arrive to take part in what has become the biggest travelling fun fair in Europe.
He's a showman, on the road, man. Another town, another fair, every place, everywhere. He's a showman. He's a showman. Caravan man. Like his father and before, in his blood forevermore. He's a showman. Through all kinds of weather, the road goes on forever. Summer, sun, thunder and rain. The story's not just like that, it's the story of the Hopkins. It's just that time of year again. Showman, traveling man. Big wheels turn around, the lights, the sights, the sound of the showman.
The fair dates back over 120 years to 1882, when it was originally introduced as a temperance festival to replace horse racing. To this day, the fair is still an alcohol-free zone. The fair became known as the Hoppings in the 1950s, the word Hoppings being derived from the word hops, which was the name for local dancers in villages in the northeast in the 18th century.
I remember Saturday night at the Newcastle Fair.
The huge fair is now organised by the northern section of the Showmen's Guild of Great Britain, in partnership with the Freemen of Newcastle and the City Council. Within a couple of hours, the once empty field begins to resemble a town within a town, constructed to house a multi-million-pound treasure trove of fairground attractions. Let's go back in time, over 120 years, and hear the story of the Hoppings. And to set the scene is Mr. Colin Noble, one of the main organisers of the event.
Well, as near as we can tell you, because we wasn't there at the time, but we're informed it was 1882, which goes back a long time. They built iron men and wooden ships then. And the ride was big and driven by steam. The men were very, very hard working because there wasn't many cranes in those days. It was all manual labour, and it took some moving.
Steam had been harnessed to power fairground equipment only 12 years before the first Temperance Fair, and this new source of power resulted in the development of large rides like the Galloping Horses and Switchbacks. These enormous rides were both powered and transported by the equally mammoth traction engines. In the very early years of the Town Moor Fair, pioneering showman families included the Farrers, the Lings, the Powells, and especially the Murphy family, whose contribution to the development of the Hoppings could never be understated. By 1900, when the rides had become electrically driven, the combined imaginations of artists, carpenters and engineers ran wild. The themes of the switchback rides were constantly being modified. It became a competition to see who could be the most elaborate with their styles, ranging from simple boats, motor cars and Venetian gondolas to peacocks, dragons and diving dolphins. The punters had even more fun for their farthings. One of the many astonishing attractions which visited the Hoppings at the beginning of the 20th century was Murphy's Bioscope, a forerunner of the cinema, long before Tom Mix and Laurel and Hardy became household names. The Town Moor Fair was cancelled in 1914, as many of the showmen had taken their traction engines to help with the war effort. It was replaced by a smaller fair in nearby Jesmond Vale during World War I. In 1924, the showmen returned to the Town Moor with the biggest ever fair to visit Newcastle.
Never saw the sight of the magical sounds in the air. Never seen the old Town Moor dressed up the way that it was that night. But most of all, the magic for me was that Jenny was there.
A very unusual ride appeared at the Town Moor in the early 20th century. The Razzle Dazzle was a huge rotating, tilting drum. A very similar version of this ride is still on show at the Town Moor Fair of today with a new name, the Wild Thing. While the switchbacks and carousels continued to churn the customers' stomachs at the Town Moor throughout the 1920s, the sideshows and attractions were many and varied. For instance, the daredevils who risked life and limb diving from a huge tower into what appeared to be a bucket of water. The early 1930s saw a new development in thriller rides visiting the Town Moor. Rides like the Caterpillar, one of the first high-speed rides where courting couples stole a very quick kiss as the canvas cover came over them. Thomas Dixon, a veteran fairground enthusiast, remembers the years at the Town Moor Fair leading up to World War II.
My earliest memories of the fun fair on the Town Moor here go back to about 1934-35. When I was brought to the fair by my father and mother. Money was tight in those days. You were lucky to get a ride or two, but on different things. And one of the rides that went on was the Dodgem cars. One of the finest rides that I ever went on was the Moon Rocket ride. Also had what I class as one of the best Ben-Hur rides in the country. The lovely Ben-Hur, when it was built up, there was the great big chariot race on the front of the great big massive rounding boards and that. And the whole chariot race, and what a ride that was to go on. And what a wonderful sight that was.
In the 1930s, advances in engineering and materials resulted in the introduction of faster rides with a shorter assembly time. Noah's Ark rides and variations like the Speedway quickly replaced the more cumbersome switchbacks, which took too long to build and dismantle. A variation on the Ark called the Walser made its debut at the Hoppings as early as 1934, but surprisingly did not become popular until well after World War II. The ever-faithful traction engines began to be replaced with heavy-duty motor vehicles in the late 1930s. While all these changes were taking place, the smallest visitors to the Town Moor Fair continued with their traditional show, the Flea Circus. However, this period was to be their swan song. After World War II, the flea population dwindled with the introduction of insecticides. The price of a flea doubled to £1, and with a life expectancy of around 40 days, they became too expensive to train. Hence, curtains at the fun fair.
The earliest my memories of the hoppings of moon rockets and cakewalks. I remember American brought a sideshow. It'd be 100 foot front, 500-600 feet back, and was racing cars in there and turning cars over. Peggy the Eye Diver, the girl on the eye wire, the Frenchman on the swinging pole. There's been lots of great shows here, lots of great shows, and lots of things for the public in the past, but they didn't have to pay. It was an attraction. They come down. The syndicate paid for it. We don't seem to have that kind of stuff no more. I don't know why. I don't know if these people don't exist. I think Peggy the Eye Diver's still going.
The beginning of the war, there was a fun fair staged in Exhibition Park for 7 weeks. The advert in the press said, the first wartime fun fair of the north of England. Hoodley's had the moon rocket, Frank McConville had the Noah's Ark, and John Powell had a great big massive Dodgem car track.
Well, the actual Hoppings Fair as we know it now was suspended during the war. But what they did have, they had a certain amount of equipment, and they called it holidays at home, to help keep the morale of the public up during the bombing and so on through the war. And the fair was actually, I think it was in the Bull Park, wasn't it?
Part of it was in the first 1941, 42, and I think 43 was in the exhibition park, like you say, the Bull Park. And then in 1944, we came back onto the lower end of the moor, which was quite a considerable size fair at the time. And then the only interruption from there on that was ever thought about was when we had the wet rain that year.
Don't let it rain. Don't let it rain today. Today or any other day. Storm clouds gather, ruin my dream. Monochrome mud on the silver screen. Don't let it rain. Don't let it rain today. Today or any other day. Today or any other day.
And it was a bit dodgy, but the sun shone on us. God's not bad if you treat it right.
I was born on the moor along this footpath here. That's the way the town moor used to run in those days. It didn't come from the bottom and go straight up. It went across the town moor, with all the equipment stood either side of the road. It used to be across the moor then. That was in the good old days. In 42 and 43, they allowed us back onto the town moor for an 8-week stint. And they requested it, the government, for the local authorities all over the country to work hand in hand with the Showman's Guild at that time to provide stay-at-home holidays all over the country. Glasgow, the west of England, London area, the Yorkshire. And so the showmen obviously worked with the government on this enterprise to the benefit of all, I would say. And the town moor then was only a fractional of what it is now, of course, with the restrictions on travelling and the restrictions on many things during the war years.
When the war was on, we actually got over flying bomb. and put that on exhibition, went tenting with it around the marketplaces by ourselves. We've done a few different things.
Following the end of the Second World War, the organisers of the Hoppings planned a triumphant return to Newcastle in 1946. However, this was not to be. Following a dispute with the City Council, the showmen set up a rival fair on the other side of the river in Gateshead. The fair here, organised by the council alone, was a total flop, attracting 30,000 visitors rather than the usual 1.5 million.
As far as the Showman's Guild was concerned, was that there was a bit of a disagreement with the city over the rent, and what the city decided to do was to let it to people who weren't members of the Showman's Guild, as we all, in this fair, we're all members of the Showman's Guild. And unfortunately, they just couldn't put the show on, the spectacular show that it is today. So that was only on for 1 year, and then it reverted back to the members of the Showman's Guild.
Just after the war, about 1947 was the farthest I can remember back, but we come here earlier than that. My grandfather, years before that, used to be one of the Northern Syndicate. And over the years, the Murphy family has been associated with the Town Moor for, since, I would reckon, since it first began. And it's John Murphy now who's on the Northern Syndicate with Mr. Colin Noble. They actually run the fair as it is today. There was like steam yachts, the jumping horses, there was dive bombers, like not the dive bombers like we see today, but more or less on the same lines. There was Noah's Arks, which is the speedway, the early forerunner of the Razzle Dazzle, and that type of thing.
The Walser arrived just pre-war, 1939, but in 1945, that was the introduction of the waltzers. And of course, they've stayed the distance very well. I mean, they're still a popular ride today. The Waltz and the Dodgems are what we call a bread and butter ride. You'll always get a living with them, but you'll never make a great fortune.
Quilly Toogood remembers his early days with his father at the Hoppings.
I was still going to school. That's when my dad had the Swish. As I say, not years ago, that. I'm 67. But I mean, it was on before that, but it stopped while the war was on. You know, then just after the war finished, following year it was back on again.
This is the swish or the swirl, popular at the Town Moor between the 1940s and the 1990s. Towards the end of the 1940s, an exciting new show became established at the Hoppings, next to the infamous boxing booth. Fearless performers sped around a circular wall on motorcycles, and even racing cars on the Wall of Death.
I remember old Matty Taylor with his double dive bomber used to be at the bottom of the moor here. And I mean, that was a wonderful ride, that. And then Cullen Brothers Silver Rodeo.
By the dawn of the 1950s, Newcastle's Town Moor Fair was universally known as the Hoppings. Around the same period, one of only two existing examples of the revolutionary new ride, the Rotor, visited the Hoppings. Riders stood inside a spinning drum. The floor dropped away and they stuck to the wall like flies. It is still the only pay-to-view fairground ride in the world. I wonder why. with its very non-cowboy name, Shufflebottom's Wild West Show had been visiting the Hoppings since the 1890s and was still all the rage in the 1950s. In the late 1950s, visitors to the Hoppings were the first generation to experience the music that has become forever associated with fairgrounds and good times, rock and roll.
Really rocking at the Hoppings. Having a ball. We're really rocking at the Hoppings. Let's have a ball. Yeah, we're jumping and jiving to the good old days of rock and roll. Rolling on a wall, so speeding to the sound. Spinning on a speedway, feet don't touch the ground. Really rocking at the Hoppings. Having a ball. We're jumping and jiving, the good old days of rock and roll.
My father had the freak show, the sheep with 5 legs and 6 feet. The kitten with 6 paws. The little horse, so small, so tiny, he was smaller than a dog. The bull with 5 legs, 6 feet and 2 tails. Babyface, the cow with the bulldog's head. The little monkey, there was nothing wrong with him, he was just to amuse the kids. There was 15 live animals in the one show for threepence, all alive. Nothing stuffed, nothing in glass cases. We can do anything, and that's how I brought my kids up and how I brought myself up. We can build anything, like the funhouse behind you. I built it, and I'm proud of it.
Did you paint it as well?
No, I'm not very good at the painting job. Only with a spray gun, a big spray gun. I've enjoyed the funhouse, I've had haunted houses, I've had several ghost trains, I've had girl shows, I've had the Illusion, the half-bodied girl, Dracula's daughter. I had an octopus in a tank once, 7 feet across. I've had lots of different things, but I think the funhouse is my favourite. I can build it up, I can pull it down, I can maintain it, and I can mind it. I don't need anybody. I don't need any men to go and find the men before I open. The girl shows, where's the girls? They'll have to walk up the street, there's people on the ground, we're ready for opening. Where's these girls? So Loughborough Fair, the 2 boys from the Walser run away and took the 2 girls of mine with them. The man from the Walser said, your girls have stolen my men. Yeah, I said, very good. And I couldn't get any more girls, so I didn't open Saturday at all. Loughborough Fair, a major fair, and I didn't open. So when I turned in that winter, I said, we're going to make something, Eileen, that me and you can build up, mind, and we don't need nobody. And that's how the funhouse was born. Actually, it was Frankenstein's castle what was born then. I used to frighten people to death. This funhouse has always been a funhouse, but it's been Spanish style, it's been Chinese style, and now we're in with the jungle.
This attraction behind me, the bingo, you can win thousands of prizes like you can all over the fairground. I wonder what you would have won in times gone past. A mangle? Or stoop?
There used to be a lot of like chalk figures on bingo stalls and that, what we used to call like cherry ladies and all that. You sometimes see them in auction today with a girl holding a cherry up above her head with the old-fashioned dress and everything on, you know. That sort of thing, and T-shirts was always, and pets of pans was always things on bingo stalls, and Dart stalls was always like coconuts, but not straight after the war because naturally we couldn't get them till they started fetching them in. Coconuts started arriving on the fairgrounds around about 48 to 1950, somewhere around that area, and they still go strong today. Baskets of fruit and chickens, like after 48, 50, there used to be a bingo stall used to be called Chicken Joe's, and he gave nothing else but chickens out. That was his complete stock, was chickens.
We couldn't get the crockery, we couldn't get the soft toys, nothing like that. We couldn't get the chocolates, all those things. The typical things would be if we found somewhere we still had the salt cellars and the brushes and the chalk figures and things like that.
Joe Lane from Doncaster, he used to have a man called Joe Barrick who had Chicken Joe. Now you got a parcel of groceries, a chicken on top of the parcel, and any other prize on the stall for sixpence. And that was good value. Harry had a housey stall. He used to get exceptionally good prices off Harry. I've still got a prize at home that were one of Harry, which is a chrome companion set, and it's still in good order. Right.
This is Swag Alley, an official street inside the Hoppings Fair. It's like a bazaar which provides everything the showmen need, from thousands of light bulbs to the familiar prizes you see on the stalls, and of course, wellies. The 1960s saw the Hoppings kick off with great weather, and with this song, probably the greatest waltzer record ever. In the 60s, the Hurricane jets and dive bombers became the new craze. Yet the waltzers were still riding full and sporting their original 50s finery. The loopers came and went seemingly overnight, while the old speedways had lost none of their magic. Hit records meant everything at the Hoppings, especially in the 60s. And this ride, Shaw's Moon Rockets, was extremely popular because it seemed to get the new records before anyone else. These moon rockets were an updated version of the old design, modified by local showman John Hoadley, with swing-out cars replacing the fixed ones. They were a highlight at the Hoppings until 1984, but have not visited Newcastle since. However, they have now been fully refurbished and can be found working in the summer months in Rawcliffe near Doncaster. Maybe one day they'll revisit the Hoppings. When the building of the new urban motorway threatened to isolate the town more from Newcastle city centre, people in their thousands still found a way of getting to the Hoppers.
The ones that stick in my mind most, because I was a 70s child, not a 60s child, is Fred Killeen's Silver Rodeo at the bottom, and Jobson's Dodgems, and Two Goods Walser, and Murphy's Walser at the very bottom position, what Curtis Eddy's standing on now. Wonderful days. And one of my favourite rides of the 70s was Brett's Ghost Train. Because when we were kids, it was really, because it was all had varnish sort of tint on it, and it was like, my God, we used to run away from it when we were kids. But it was a wonderful feel in the town we were in the 70s.